welcome back to Lydia Lost the Plot. How has your week been? Because mine has been fantastic. I have had the best reading week ever. I have had nothing but amazing reads. So it's been really fun. I also went bowling for the first time in probably 18 years. It wasn't good. It wasn't pretty. I've realised I'm not made for bowling. Bowling is not my sport. Because it was so pitiful, my attempt to bowl, that suggestions were made to put the sides up, but suggestions were made for me to just take extra turns for help. It was embarrassing. I'm a 30-year-old woman. 30-year-old woman, and I can't bowl. But, you know, I might not be able to bowl, but I can read. So, I'm going to take that as a win. But in other bookish news from this week, the Pulitzer Prize was announced for fiction and it was awarded to Jane and Phillips for Night Watch. It is a book I have never heard of, but immediately ordered. I hadn't even heard of Jane and Phillips. Now, looking at some of the stuff on BookTube at the minute, loads of people are talking about some of her back catalogue. I think Lark and Termite is one of her books that has won awards and, you know, got a bit of a following from it. So I've been trying to do a bit of research about her because I knew nothing about her. I knew nothing about her writing, her style, nothing, which is always dead exciting because I'm a bookseller by trade. So I have to read a lot of books. So I think I have like a relatively good knowledge of books. So when something comes out of the blue like that and it's a book I've never heard of and an author I've never discovered, it's just so exciting. And I'm sure you're as excited as I am. There is a great reaction video by Greg over on Supposedly Fun of his reaction to the Pulitzer Prize and the winner, and it's a brilliant video. So if you're looking for a bit more content about that, because I know nothing about it at the moment, then head on over to Supposedly Fun for that. So moving on to my week in reading, it was a great week. So it started off with finishing off Lisey's story by Stephen King. As I've said in my previous videos, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and you know, pretty much everything he writes I've loved. So I knew this was going to be a winner. It was sort of a comfort read because I'd been going through a bit of stuff, like personal stuff, and when your head's a little bit off, always think the best thing to do is go back to what you know, back to the stuff that's going to bring you comfort, that you know is going to be reliably good. And Stephen King is that for me. So I have absolutely loved it. It's been phenomenal. It's a beautiful story about a widow and her quest for sort of, I say quest like she's on like Skyrim. I don't think so. But her journey through grief and through loss and how she has to learn to live with it, and it is just so wonderful. It's got magical realism, it's got fantasy elements, it's just everything that you want from a Stephen King novel you get from this. I really enjoyed it. I think there are a couple of bits in it that I would have liked a bit more time with. The guy that died in it is called Scott, and I think that there's a small portion where we get to learn a little bit more about him, and I think that I would have liked to have delved even more into him. But that's just me being greedy. I just love Stephen King's writing, so you know, you could write a telephone book and I'd be happy about it. So yeah, I loved this one, and I think it's definitely going to be one of the ones that is up there on my Stephen King favourites, along with 11/22/63, and what else? The Stand, or Night Shift, you know, my faves. So it's definitely earned its place on the shelf. So that was great. The next up was a book that I was reading for work. So I work in a bookstore, I work at a Waterstones, and we have books of the month. We don't have to read them, but we can choose to if we want to. And I try and read a good couple every month, just so that I can give my honest opinion about them and I know what I'm talking about. And the book that I went for this month was Justin Cronin's The Ferryman. And I was super excited about this because guess who blurbed it? That's right, Stephen King. At this point, is this just a Stephen King fan account? Quite possibly. But Stephen King says, next to impossible to put down, this is a book to get lost in. And it is so true. I could not put this book down. I mean, it's a chunkster. It's fairly big. I think it's 538 pages long. So it's an undertaking. I think anything over 500 pages is definitely classed as a big book, and this is a big book. I mean, I've also got, this is the proof copy, so it's massive. It's as big as my head. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this book. It starts off, it's a bit of a dystopian world. So there are these people called the Prosperans, and then there are other people that live in the annex, and it's sort of like the higher class and the lower class of people. The Prosperans are people that can live a life and then go and be reincarnated and live another life, but the people in the annex can't. They just live one life and die, and that's it. And we follow Proctor Bennett, who is a ferryman. So he takes the people who are going off to be reincarnated across on a ferry to the place where they get reincarnated. And it's his job to do that. But all is not as it seems. And it's Truman Show-esque. It's got fantastic dystopian elements. It has some great science fiction tropes in it that are not overly done or overused. And it's such a rip-roaring kind of non-stop assault of the senses. It's so fantastic. And I think it's one of those books that when you start to read it, you think, oh, I don't know, because I always hate world building. Some people love it, but I can't be doing with like 400 maps and 600 place names. And Justin Cronin does not do that. You are into the action from the second you set foot in this book. It is fast paced and it is so nuanced. Ultimately, I think this book, more than anything, I think this book is about sort of a religion and creation and the prospect of understanding where you come from, whether that be from your parents or whether you believe that there is a higher power in life, which I always found fascinating. I'm not a particularly heavily religious person myself. I find I would describe myself as quite spiritual, but definitely I think that it's nice to see this topic being explored in fiction, because I don't think we see it as often as we probably should. And as we are quite a secular society now in the West, I think it's nice to explore that a little bit more in the books that are coming out. So it's less world building, it's more character focused, which I love. I could read a book just about a character. I don't need plot. But yeah, so it's about existence, it's about perceived reality, and what that means to each person. It's fantastic. So I could not put this down, and I really feel like it's sort of slipped under the radar with a lot of people. I'm really interested to read what else Justin Cronin has written, because he wrote a trilogy. I think it's called the Passage trilogy. I think, yeah. And that apparently is, canonically a very brilliant series, and now I actually can't wait to get to it. and I will be getting to it. So fantastic. Get it on your TBR. Go to a Waterstones and get it for half price, even better. But yeah, amazing. I think I might have a brew break. Love a brew. Next up was The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Deesha Philyaw. A fantastic collection of short stories. I loved every story in this, and I think it's so hard for short story curations to really overwhelm me with how good they are, because some, I think, you have really standout stories and then you have the ones you immediately forget after reading. With this, I've not forgotten one story, and some of them have really stayed with me. There's a story that involves a peach cobbler, and it will make you never want to eat peach cobbler again. It actually makes me feel sick. But it has a very cohesive narrative with overlapping narratives as well. There's some overlap, and some of the themes in it are just fantastic. Predominantly, a lot of it is about sexuality and faith, and how they sometimes can't coincide and can't marry together. And I think that's a really, really brilliant topic to explore. But ultimately, it was just really fun. It was funny and gripping and interesting. And these are stories I've not heard before. A lot of the time, I think, when you read a lot, you get used to sort of the same themes, same sort of types of stories and things like that. With this, I was surprised constantly, and I think you can't ask for anything more than that. Like, I want to be surprised. I want to not know what's going to happen next, what's going to be around the corner, and this is a book that is all about that. And I just, yeah, I loved it. So this was a recommendation, again, from Greg at Supposedly Fun, who calls it his beloved, and it is absolutely fantastic, and I cannot stop talking about it. So it is available now in paperback in the UK, so if you want it, go get it now, because it's so good. And I put off reading it for so long, and it's so good. So I love that. So those were the 3 books that I read to completion this week. I don't usually read 3 books a week. Sometimes it's just 2, sometimes it's just 1. I don't really read like a huge amount all of the time, but just the quality of the books this week, I just couldn't get my head out of them. I did literally nothing else. My house is a state, I've got no clean clothes, but I read 3 fantastic books, and that's all that matters, isn't it? So my current read at the moment is Sinner by Simone. Okay, don't judge. Yes, it's not going to win the Pulitzer Prize for fiction. It's not. However, for a great escapist, spicy read, oh, it's fabulous. It's so much fun. It's, you know, one thing you will find with this channel is I am not a snob. I will not turn my nose up at anything. So this is a book that I've been waiting to read for ages, because I read Priest. It's the second in a trilogy. The first one is called Priest, and it was very hot and steamy, let me tell you. If you've watched Fleabag and you fancied Andrew Scott, get Priest. And I read that last year. And then I started this and then never got round to finishing it, because I had a million books to read for the podcast, I had a million books to read for work, and it just slowly got to the bottom of the pile. And I thought, since I'd got to the point where I'd read a bit and was feeling, you know, completely out of my reading slump, I was like, well, I might as well revisit this and try and finish it. So I'm pretty much like over halfway through now, which is good. It's really readable. It's not as good as Priest. It's basically, it's about the brother of the priest and he hates religion, hates God, hates anything to do with it. And then I think it's his best friend's sister is becoming a nun. And even as I say it, I know what you're thinking. Becomes a nun, and is becoming a nun, but she wants to sort of experience a side of life that she won't be able to delve into. And it goes from there. It's great, honestly. It's fluff, it's nice. I think sometimes we can get too serious about reading, and we, you know, yes, I love Pulitzer Prizes, yes, I love Women's Prize for Fiction, all of those things, of course I do. But you know what? Sometimes you can't beat a bit of smut. Seriously, you should get that written on a t-shirt. So looking forward to the week ahead. I have no idea what I'm going to be reading. I have a few ideas, but I am going to put a poll on my Instagram story today, so this will come out on Sunday, of 4 options, and I'm going to get people to choose, you guys to choose what I read this week, because I just turned to smut, clearly. And also I'm a bit stuck about what to read, so I think that'd be great. But I hope you've enjoyed this little wrap up for the week. I'm going to try and do them every week. So on a Sunday, you will get to sit down with me with your cup of tea, talking a cup of tea, with your cup of tea, and we can chat about our books, we can talk about what we've read that week. In the comments down below, please tell me what you've been reading. If there's anything fantastic I should be adding to my TBR, if there's something that was a bit of a miss for you, if you've got any spicy reads for me, I'm welcoming them. And of course, I am just so grateful that you are here and that you have supported my channel so far, so thank you. Please do remember to like the video and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. It really helps, and I will see you again soon. Cheers.